I mean, have you thought about your yearly theme? Because I keep bringing this up. And
I did, and I forget what the word I came up with now.
Oh,
goodness. And I came up with one. And I don't remember what the word is now. I came up with a good one.
Shows how dedicated to the theme you are.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 14.
Everyone has things that they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on.
So yeah, we're still in distance learning.
Yeah, it's now approaching week 3 of distance learning. So yeah, this is going.
In reality, I think it's not too bad. For my kids, it doesn't seem too bad, who are all in elementary.
I will say for high school, it seems that some of the students are struggling with the expectations because they're at home. And so they can't get their mind wrapped around the fact that they're still expected to do a lot of schoolwork.
I know that for my girls, it has been very helpful to maintain the schedule, right? We wake up at the time we normally wake up. We're able to get around the house a little slower because, again, normally we try to get to school by 8, and here we only really have to get going by 8:30.
Yeah.
So we don't have to get around so fast, but, we wake up at the normal time, they get into their work, and sometimes my daughters have been getting to work before 8 because they know some of the assignments they have to do right away, so they've been working on those, just trying to get done early.
Hey, if you can get all your stuff done early, I mean, that's the nice thing about this is if you can really get all your stuff done by, say, noon, then that means you have the rest of the day off.
Yeah, it has been the case that my daughters have pretty much got their work done by 2, and then they just go off and play, which they've been enjoying. So pretty much all 3 of them have been finishing around noon. So works pretty well. Yeah, I do find that you're right from some of the things I've been hearing from my wife. Some of the high school kids are having a harder time getting going, but she's been holding Google Meets pretty much every time, and that's worked pretty well for her.
My class has been, since we're largely in a project and wrapping up a unit time, it's been a lot of individual work that if we had classes, it would have been a lot of work days, and instead they're just doing the work from their home, which, since I don't expect them to meet at a specific time, some of the things that have been expected, I think they have been, because there's not a specific time that they're expected to be there, it makes it very easy to take it easy. Part of me does think that it'd be nice if I had held them to a schedule like that, but the other side of me knows that we wouldn't have had a reason to get together and meet because it was a project time.
Yeah, what would you have said? Okay, we're going to meet. Okay, now everyone mute your mics and work.
Yeah, it would have been pointless, but I mean, it would have forced them to get their work done, but it would have been absolutely a pointless endeavor.
In the technology side, in the technology department side, I mean, I think it's gone pretty smoothly too. There were a lot of people asking questions at the very beginning, and it took a little while to get all that worked out, but we managed to get all the questions answered and everyone settled down. And by about Tuesday or Wednesday, I would say this week, I was able to start working on projects. I wasn't overloaded with questions of the day and just answering those questions. I did spend a lot of day helping with my daughters with their work because while my wife's working, somebody needs to help my daughters out. So I was doing a lot of that. But once my daughters were straightened doing their work, and usually by 2 p.m. every day, right, I would have plenty of working time. But I was able to get caught up on starting working on some projects. And I was pretty pleased with that.
Good. For me, where I have the mix of the job where I'm half teacher, half tech, and since I teach social studies classes, it requires a whole lot more essays and writing that I'm expecting from the students, which means I have to do a lot of grading of those essays.
Yeah.
It slows down the work a little bit more than I was anticipating simply because I am very much used to doing a lot of quick checks in class, whereas this requires a lot of evaluation on an individual level, simply for the mere fact that since I don't have the student there and I can't say, here's what you did that you could have done better on, I have to put it into specific words every single time. So it becomes that I have to actually point out specific things a lot more. It just takes more time.
Yeah.
And I do not envy the English teachers during this time.
Yeah. Yeah, because normally you'd be able to walk around and just point it out quickly, right?
Exactly.
But now you're having to sit down and write an email. Like, it's more of a process for each little thing.
Yeah, for every student who has a question or an issue, I have to address that specific student on their specific assignment.
Yes. And even if 5 other people have it, you just have to respond to 5 other people too. It's not like the class can hear you say, everyone listen up, don't do this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is, though.
But one of the projects that I've been working on, that I've been very pleased that I've finally gotten to, is I finally started setting up the Linode server for school. And it is pretty slick. I am loving it. This is one of the reasons why I've been looking into Linode, is because it's tried and tested technologies, right? I am not doing anything fancy. I'm setting up a web server. So when I ran into an error, I would look it up on the internet and I'd find 5 answers and the first one would work. And I'd put in the line of code or the configuration that I wanted, and then it was done. Like, it was amazing. It's the way it should be for a web server. And it's so nice. Like, again, one of the problems we have with our current web server is that it doesn't handle forwarding to HTTPS. If you type in our website with just HTTP, and I have it set up, it's supposed to forward automatically to the HTTPS website for you. Yeah, that doesn't work on our current web server, and I don't know why. But on this one, I was like, okay, how do I do this? I looked it up. There was 2 lines of config I needed to put in. I put it in, and now I'm done. And it works. The first time. How amazing. Yeah, I'm now counting down the days until we can move our main web server to this service, to Linode. But it is just very nice.
Oh, that's the dream right there.
Well, because here's one of the nice things about Linode, right? So I had already set up this Linode months ago. Almost a year ago now, actually, and I'm finally getting around to it now. So I had set it up. It wasn't quite working, and I didn't have time to fix it back then. I moved on to other projects. So now I got back to it, and I couldn't get it to where I wanted to because, interestingly, I had chosen an older version of Linux, and that version of Linux had kind of expired in some ways, and I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I just shut down that Linode server and started up another one and had it going in another one. And yep, I'm to the point where I was in the previous one, so I don't need the previous one anymore, and I just deleted it. Like, it was so easy. Like, so for instance, let's say we wanted to make a switch to how we config things. You know what we do? We start up a new Linode, copy all the settings over, change the one setting we want, and then throw the switch to flip it over, to that one be the primary server. Like, it's a piece of cake, really. Because you could just, you need to build it again? Sure, build it again.
Yeah.
So, there's a whole, if you look in our technology drive, there's a whole list of every single command I ran so that you can run them all again. And here's all the switches I flipped. Here's all the commands I ran. You run them all in that order, and you're going to be good to go in no time. So, anyway, it's pretty slick. So, yeah, I'm converted.
Snow?
Did you see the snow today?
I didn't go outside today.
Wow.
Because, I'm a classy person.
Well, I didn't go outside, but it was snowing today.
See, from where I could see, it looked like it was just dreary and rainy.
No, well, here, I guess it can be different where you are, but there was fat flakes of snow from 2 to 5, I would say, 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock.
I was definitely curled up on my couch with a blanket wrapped around me at that time.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
There was a thin layer on the ground. I'm not sure if it's still there because it rained after it snowed, and now I think it stopped raining. So, quite interesting. Snow in, March 14. We've only got 6 more days of winter, so get the first snow of the year right in under the wire.
Hey, I'm okay with having a little bit of snow, but, it's Tokyo. We never get snow.
And we're not going to have a snow day now either, are we?
Can't have a snow day when nobody has to worry about transit.
Yeah, I hope we start again up on March 30, like we're supposed to.
You say that, but, here's the thing. I just was talking to my parents. Illinois schools are now shut down.
Yeah, my parents' schools just shut down today, too.
So, yeah. If anything, I'm beginning to think it might last longer than I anticipate. Nothing but hope.
Ryan, what have you been playing recently?
So, for what I've been playing, the past couple of days, actually, and the past couple of weeks, is pretty much everything that I've mentioned before. And the reason being is because I have 3 games coming out in the next month that are all arriving, that I am on a warpath to clear out all of the games that I've half completed. And so right now I am basically trying to knock out everything that is like partially done that might hold me back from the 3 games that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, right now I have the hospital game, 2 Point Hospital, that I talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
There's the original Neo.
Okay.
And I'm still wrapping up Yakuza. I'm still wrapping up a whole bunch of other games.
XCOM too? Did you finish it?
XCOM is still in the list too, yep. So all of these I've been bouncing between, and that's because in...
Yeah, less than a month, right?
Yeah, well, the first of the 3 games is technically released yesterday.
Oh, okay.
But I have all of these as physical copies that are coming from America. So, the first one is Neo 2, which officially released yesterday. Which is partially why I'm trying to finish up the first Neo, because I beat the game, but as I said before, I'm a bit of a completionist, and I like to actually fully beat a game and have all the side quests done. I am the type of player who, if I as a character walk into a town and see all of the NPCs with side quests available, I just kind of sigh and admit to myself that the main quest can wait.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, if there's like a meteor hurtling towards Earth and that's the main quest to stop that meteor, I really feel like it's more important to help Old Man Jenkins find his missing spoon. Which really, that is like some of the sort of stuff that happens in side quests.
In Neo 1 or just in any side quest?
No, in a general game. I'm just...
Mm-mm.
No, so Neo, I'm wrapping that up because I left a few of the side things left undone. I should probably have that finished before the second game arrives. And the second game should arrive right before spring break. Which, convenient timing.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And so I'm just basically doing all of the games that I've played in the past, trying to wrap them all up. The 4 that I've listed there are just the ones that I have been playing in the past week. If I have extra time, I will get to the other ones, because I do have a bit of a backlog of games that I kind of completed, but didn't really. And unfortunately, if I go into that list, it will take all day.
Just a second, the Yakuza game, is it number 7 again?
It is not number 7.
Oh.
Number 7 is the most recent one. I have not been playing 7. I've been playing the earlier ones.
Oh, okay.
Is actually the one that I've been playing is 0.
0. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they made 0, and then 7. Or no. They made 1 through 5, then they made 0, then they made 6.
Mm-hmm.
7 is a new game.
Mm-hmm.
I play these games... Like I said, I'm the type of person who will wring everything out of that game. Like, I will do everything in a game. And so tends to be a bit of I have to admit that it's going to take some time.
Mm-hmm. You get your value.
Exactly. I have to get my value out of it.
Mm-hmm. You paid $60 for it.
Not always. Some of them I spent like $10, $15 on.
Oh, good.
Because I also will usually watch for sales. There are a few games that I will buy at full price right at the get-go, but most games that I own, I bought at a sale.
Mm-mm.
Nothing too major, just basically going down the list of games that I have mostly completed and trying to finish up the last few things, because I have Neo 2 coming out arriving in about a week.
Mm-hmm.
Then, about 2 or 3 weeks after that, there's Persona 5 Royal that's going to arrive. And then about 2 or 3 weeks after that is going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake.
So your self-quarantining is not going to be a problem, you're saying?
No. By me self-quarantining, it just is kind of a excuse to get through my backlog of games.
Mm-hmm.
Although the downside to it is the self-quarantining with my backlog of games will distract me from the yearly goal.
Yes, yearly theme. Mm-hmm.
My yearly theme goal. Yeah, I think we should probably talk about yearly themes. I mean, it is now March, but let's talk about some yearly themes.
And we've been pushing it back.
Yeah, we have been pushing it back. So for those of you who don't know about what we mean by yearly themes, this is something that's actually often talked about on Cortex, which is another podcast which we both very much enjoy. So if you haven't ever heard of Cortex, and yet you've heard of us, that sounds a little backwards to me, but...
Yeah, they're a little bit more popular than we are.
A little bit. But they're definitely a great podcast that talk about yearly themes a lot. CGP Grey is one of the people on that podcast, and he actually also made a YouTube video about yearly themes. So you could also go out and check that out if you'd like kind of an understanding of what we mean by themes. But the general overview of it is a word or a theme that you focus on during that year, which just basically recontextualizes your brain a bit to focus on something throughout the year. So, for example, it can be a year of organization or a year of refinement, and you spend your entire year basically aiming for that thing. There's no failure scenario when you talk about these goals, because it's just having something in the back of your head. And that way it's different from a resolution. A resolution usually has a failure state. And instead, these themes basically just go, okay, when you have a choice, it's just basically allowing that thought in the back of your head to help redefine which path you go down when you come to a choice.
Right, and if you choose the other direction for that moment, it doesn't mean you failed on your theme.
No.
It just meant you chose the other thing for that moment. So it gives you a little bit more freedom.
Mm-hmm. What you might think of when you think of the theme, it might change too. So, for example, if I were to do like a year of organization, that might mean that at the beginning of the year, my idea of what organization should look like might be completely different from what it looks like at the end of the year. So what these themes are is it's a word or a theme that you pick that just resonates with you and is broad enough to kind of encompass something that you'd like to focus on for that year.
So Ryan, what did you pick for your theme?
I originally was talking about progress, but I felt like that word didn't resonate enough. It didn't feel like this is what I'm really working towards. And I feel like a better word, actually, when I think of for me and what I want to achieve this year, is actually movement.
Mm-mm.
Because when you think of movement, you think of actually like physical movement, but you also think of like progress and going towards something. You also think of, at least I do, if you know Aristotelian thought, movement and change are actually mean the same thing, basically. And so it's all tied to this idea of progress, of going forward, but also movement in general. And the reason why I say that, for me, it is very much a easy thing for me to float, kind of just drift by, let things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I can just kind of go with the flow very easily. That tends to be a way that I live very well, which it is a relaxing thing, it is a calming thing, so I don't tend to get too stressed out about things. But the downside to it is I can let things pass by very easily, and I can find years have passed by without making any progress towards goals.
Mm.
And so I want this to be a year where I make a specific volitional choice to work against that tendency, to work towards not letting myself just drift by, but make progress and go out and move and do things, but also to make movement towards several of the goals that I've set for myself and on things that I want to achieve and things that I want to do. And so that's why I would say I want this to be a year of movement, or a period of movement, because I don't know when officially this year is.
Time period of movement?
Time period of movement, because it might be something that continues past a year, or it might be something shorter than a year. Because mostly it's to kick myself in the tuchus and get going.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's kind of where I feel like on for my yearly theme.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with year of focus. I wanted a better, or time period of focus. I wanted a better word than focus. Looking at the synonyms of focus, I find something better. I think this is kind of what I wanted. And I think there's a few areas where I want to see this. One was, I do occasionally have time to peck away at my phone when I'm waiting for something, right? Was one of the things I enjoy doing at home and just in relaxing times is picking photos for the photo albums that I'm making. I just enjoy doing that. I like looking at a few photos and saying, oh, okay, these 3 fit together on a page. And then take a look at another set. Okay, which ones of these go together? Okay, these 2 go together on a page, and then move on. So I like doing that. So what I've done is I have finally figured out a way to now be able to do that on my phone or even on my iPad. It doesn't matter, but I've wanted a way to do this on my devices because when I'm relaxing, I want to use either my iPad or my iPhone. And after trying out a bunch of apps and nothing really satisfying, I finally just realized, I can upload these into my iCloud Drive and then just do them from there. Now, iCloud Drive is not perfect, but because I had to buy the 2 terabyte plan of iCloud Drive because my family got large enough to need it, I've got plenty of space in iCloud Drive right now. And while I was ruling out iCloud Drive for a long time because I didn't have enough space in it, when I got the 2 terabyte plan, I was like, well, I'll just try it now. And iCloud Drive seemed to work pretty well because now it syncs across too. So it's actually fairly nice. Now, if I just have a few moments to peck away at my phone, I'll say, okay, where did I leave off? Oh, yeah, I was thinking about this. I can then choose, okay, these 3 photos want to go together. These 2 photos need to go together. And then, since that takes the longest amount of time, once I've done that, then I just sit down at my computer for like 2 hours and it depends how long the album is, but the albums I've been making now are about 2 hours long. Then I just sit on my computer and take all the photos that I've arranged and pop them into the album and then make the book. And then I have a digital photo book. So it works out pretty nicely. I mean, there are still some other steps in there, but the thing that takes the longest is picking the photos. And now if I can just do that whenever, it's pretty nice. And I don't do it all the time. In fact, I don't remember doing it for the past 2 weeks. So I haven't done it in a while. But it's something that I can do when I have some time. And it's better than playing a game of, Burger Dash or whatever the game my daughters were playing was that I downloaded too and played for a little bit. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to do something like this. So that's one way to focus. I definitely want to focus on my family more. There's places I can focus on my family more. So I want to be trying that out. I've made a few steps on that this year, so I want to keep working on that. Yeah, and then I got some other personal projects that I want to be working on too. So yeah, lots to focus on. But anyway, one of them was don't waste time. Figure out ways to get things done. But then also don't only focus on that. Focus on other things too. So because that is one of the things. If I focus on getting things done, I will get things done. But I don't always need to just focus on getting things done. So there's other things to focus on. So that's kind of where I was going with year focus.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good yearly goal. All right. I do believe it is time to partake.
Are you thirsty, Ryan?
I'm very thirsty, especially because this thing has been sitting on my counter and I have wanted to drink it for like the past 3 weeks.
Actually, because I bought this a while back, and so then you bought one too a while back, and it's been sitting on my desk, and my daughter really wants to drink it. And she wanted to be on the podcast to drink it, and I was toying with that idea, but she would be too giggly about the idea of being on the podcast. So I said, not this time, another time. So yes, this drink has been sitting around for 3 weeks, waiting to be drunk.
Yes, mocking me.
So this is from Mitsuya, which they often sell something called Mitsuya cider, which is basically the Japanese equivalent of Sprite.
Yeah, I would say it's maybe a little bit less sugary.
Oh yeah, I would say that. I like it. I don't know if I like it better on Sprite, but I like it. I have no problem.
Yeah, it's just, it tastes like there's more seltzer water and less sugar is the best way I can describe it.
So this is from Mitsuya, but this is a pink lemonade variety, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it's been pretty popular here in Japan.
I have seen a lot of people drinking it, and it has made me jealous because I have told myself I'm not allowed to drink this.
You can't drink it until the podcast.
Prior to the podcast. So by the time that we drink this, they're probably all going to be gone.
I think they're all gone already. Yeah, I haven't seen them in the stores anymore. So yes, this is our only bottle, Ryan. Sorry.
I blame you.
Yeah, that's fair. So yes, again, our observations here. 1% fruit juice.
Yep.
400,
490?
450, 450 milliliters. Yep. In a 500 milliliter bottle. The neck of this bottle is very thin. I think that's what's contributing to the 450.
Yeah, it is. It is way. What is the purpose of that? Is my question.
I don't know. Yeah, Mitsuya cider's not shaped like this. It's just a weirdness of this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's give this a try.
Yes, it says carbonated pink lemonade. There we go.
It's very pink grapefruit taste.
Oh, yeah.
Which actually, it says it on the front there now that I read that. Underneath pink lemonade.
Does it?
Mm-hmm. In the katakana.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, grapefruit. Yeah, that is strong. I was not anticipating it having that much of a bite. I was definitely anticipating pink lemonade with some, just a little bit of seltzer in it.
Yeah, it's not very sweet, actually. You're right. For it being so popular, I was expecting it to be sweeter, although maybe that's my American side coming out.
Yeah, it is very strong. Yeah.
It's very sour.
Very sour. Yeah.
I have a fun video of my daughters.
Uh-huh.
There's a pasta restaurant across the station, right? The one that you can walk to.
Oh, yes, that one.
Well, because there's 5 pasta restaurants across the station, aren't there? Anyway, sorry.
I can think of at least 3.
The one that's right there, all of them you can walk to, I guess. But anyway, they used to have a drink machine that had juices, and one was grapefruit juice. So when my daughter was like 1 year old, I did give it to her and tell her it was orange juice, and then took a video of her drinking it, and it's hilarious. Because these nasty things you do when you're a parent, right?
I wouldn't know.
But yeah, her head shake after the first sip is really funny. It's like, whoa, what was that? It's orange juice. Something's really wrong with this orange juice. Okay, she might have been 2. I guess she might have been 2. Because, yeah, we wouldn't have done it at 1 year old.
Yeah, I'm just imagining that level of conversation from her if she was 1.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a good video. Yeah, this is not bad, this pink grapefruit.
It's not bad. It's a little bit more sour than I probably would normally like.
I think I kind of like the sour. I think I would have liked it a little bit more if it had been sweeter, but I think I do like the sour.
Well, I think part of it is also, and I'm gonna. This is something that might get me kicked off the internet for. I'm not a huge fan of grapefruit.
Oh, I think you might survive the internet.
Of all the fruits in the world, I like a lot of fruit. I am not a fan of grapefruit. Which actually is always very interesting because there is a lovely little mom and pop Chinese restaurant. And at the end of the meal, they always like to bring you out fruit. And usually it's something like they'll bring out an orange, or they'll bring out part of an apple, or they'll bring out some grapes. Just something to kind of be a palate cleanser and be kind of a desserty sort of thing at the end of the meal. Every time they bring out grapefruit, I just kind of cringe a little bit inside because I know that I am forcing it down because I don't like grapefruit. But I also love these people, and I don't want to be like, you were so kind to cut up this grapefruit, but no.
No, I'm a big fan. My grandmother used to get it. I think I was mentioning that earlier. But she used to get big grapefruit boxes, and we had grapefruit spoons. And this reminds me definitely of except for the carbonation, of pinching the grapefruit at the end after you've gotten all the fleshy bits out. You've scraped them all out of your half grapefruit. We squeeze it to get all the juices out for the parts that didn't come. And yeah, this doesn't quite taste as good as that because it's not fruit juice, but still.
Hey, it's 1%.
Yeah. Yeah, I tasted it 1%. I know. Well, the fake flavoring does pretty good, but still, it's not quite grapefruit. Well, but it does say in the ingredients there is grapefruit juice and lemon juice in that 1%.
All in all, not terrible, not bad. I think it's pretty good, but it's not probably my favorite simply because I can really taste the grapefruit.
I think I'm going to rate it higher than last time's orange yogurt.
The orange yogurt thing? I think I kind of would put the orange yogurt a little bit above it.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're going to be different.
Well, we have to be different every once in a while. We're not exactly the same people.
For sure not. Yep, we're not.
True story.
So our pick 2 for today related a little bit to the media we're going to watch later. But we've got 2 wishes for the future. And part of the reason I came up with this idea too, well, definitely the media inspired it too, but there are a lot of rumors floating around right now as we're recording this onto what iOS 14 is going to release and what's coming up for Apple, because apparently there was supposed to be some press conference this coming week that got canceled because of the coronavirus. And so I thought, well, wishes for the future. But interestingly, probably by the time we release this, some of the answers will have come out, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, these are our wishes for the future. So if they come true in the next 2 weeks, great. If they don't, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was going to say is when you talk about Apple's conference getting canceled, I mean, all the conferences have gotten canceled.
Yeah.
E3 got canceled, which is the big gaming convention. That one got canceled too, so I'm wondering what all the game publishers who have been preparing for this are going to do.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's easy for Apple to cancel stuff because, I mean, even if they're just canceling their March announcement, because their March announcement can happen over press releases.
Mm-hmm.
While they might not want it to be that way, it can still happen that way. Whereas some of the game developers, probably it's harder for them to do press releases because it's hard to get people as excited as they would be if they're at E3.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the end of the day, there's a couple of them that won't be in any trouble because, I mean, they're backed by like Microsoft or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the indie ones, oof.
Yep.
That's got to take a blow.
Yep. Losing just the people walking around, right? It just hurts them a lot more.
Mm-hmm. So, pick 2. Let's start with you this week.
Okay. I think one of the things I would like to see in the future, again, is I would like to see a professional mini Mac. I don't think Apple's going to do it. I think my gut says Apple's not going to do it because they've answered it with the Mac Pro and the iMac Pro. But I would like to see something a little less because, interestingly, when everybody complained that the trash can Mac Pro was not what they wanted, in some ways I think that's the computer I want because it's not something I upgrade. I don't change things out terribly often, and I don't need all the internal cards and things. Now, I understand that most professionals don't want that, which is fine. And, I understand that. But that is the kind of computer that I want because I want the ability to change a handful of things, but I don't change everything, so I don't need the expandability. And I can get things in Thunderbolt and things like that. So I'm okay with that. But I understand that real professionals want something different. But
they have something different now.
They do. They have something different now. So can I have a Mac Mini Pro? I wouldn't mind that. So that's kind of what I want, something with fast processors that could potentially be swapped out. I want RAM that can be swapped out, and I want a hard drive that can be swapped out, which actually you can't even do a hard drive swap out on a Mac Pro. But maybe have 1 PCI slot or 2 PCI slots that don't have to be double wide because I'm not sticking in a fancy video card. I don't need that, but having 2 PCI slots that I could put an extra hard drive in or an extra set of ports in or whatever would be nice, but only 2. So I don't know, something like that.
Well, for me, a lot of my upcoming things that I already know about are nice, but I would say if I'm really dreaming for the future, I would probably say I would like a heads-up display that doesn't make you look like a ridiculous person. So, when they first announced the Google Glass, I was actually really excited about it. I thought, this is cool. This is moving into what sci-fi has always dreamed of. And then it came out, and they look ridiculous. You can't wear it out and about.
You want Captain Rios' heads-up display, right? Except maybe something that records for you, too?
Maybe. But
maybe, huh?
Yeah, I say maybe to that because I also know what kind of horrible things could come about if you added recording onto them.
But Captain Rios from Picard, right? His heads-up display is pretty slick.
Exactly. That sort of thing. But every time I see somebody coming up with a new heads-up display, they just, as the technology is right now, it looks so bad. It just doesn't look good. Because the ideal for me is to get to the place where basically I can have the monitor embedded in my glasses and basically have some sort of keyboard that I carry around with me and that will Bluetooth to that, and then I'll have my entire setup without having to lug everything around.
That would be cool.
There's the goal. There's the dream right there.
You know, it's interesting. That reminded me of, well, and specifically the recording part, I guess, reminded me of one of Ender's children in Speaker for the Dead. What was his name? His name was Oliado. I don't know. I never quite understood how to pronounce his name. Mm-hmm. But yeah, his eyes recorded everything all the time because he had implanted eyes.
Yeah.
To me, that was always a very interesting thing to read.
We both have read and both enjoy that book, so.
Yeah, that would be slick. Anyway, yep, good one.
Yeah. All right, what about number 2 for you?
All right, my second one. This one I think I want more. Is I want to be able to dual boot macOS and iPadOS on an iPad.
That could be interesting.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Especially if they're including a mouse on a keyboard, on that attached keyboard that are coming with them. Because one of the things I had heard once from one of the other tech pundits that I listened to or read, or I forget where I heard it. I think it was on a podcast. But somebody was saying, you know, there's lots of rumors that Apple is finally going to release an ARM-based computer, which I think would be great. And well, they're going to release them next year now, 2021. But that means if they're going to release them next year in 2021, that means they're going to hopefully start talking about them this year at WWDC. And the last time when they announced a chip change, right, when they said, okay, now we're going to release Intel Macs, they allowed developers to buy a Intel-based Mac Pro that they could just have to test things out on. So let's assume that they're going to do something similar. Well, let's assume that they want to have developers have an ARM-based Mac. You know what they have? A whole bunch of ARM-based iPads out there with USB-C ports if you have an iPad Pro. So what if they just allowed you to, maybe only developers, but what if they allowed you to install macOS on your iPad Pro and then you had a fully functioning Mac on an iPad? Wouldn't that be slick? And I think it's completely possible that that's what they might do. And if they did that, I would do that in a heartbeat.
See, and I was actually thinking that you were talking about the opposite, where you could have an iPad OS
on my Mac?
On your Mac.
Yeah, but the Mac doesn't have a touchscreen, right?
That could change.
Yeah, that could change. But I think one of the things I'm looking at is being portable in such a way that I only have to bring one device but get the coolness of iPad and the coolness of Mac in one device. Because like when I go on vacation, I try to bring only my iPad, and most of the time it works fine. And most of the time it works fine because when I need to use a Mac, I remote into the Macs at school or at home and use those Macs to control the Mac things that I need to do. But if I had the Mac and the iOS on the same device, that would be great. Yeah, I would really like that, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would like to install macOS on my iPad Pro because that would just be really cool.
Yeah, I would say I would like that. I would also like to be able to run some of the iPad apps on my computer.
Yeah.
Because that'd be really, really handy because some of the apps, they either don't have a Mac version or the iPad version is just so much better. You
haven't upgraded to Catalina yet, right?
No, I have not.
Yeah, me neither. But even if we did, I think some of the apps you're talking about haven't released Catalina, haven't released, what's the technology called? Goodness.
No. The Nantka.
Catalyst. They haven't released Catalyst. This is where I yell at the podcasters whenever I listen to things because I always think about it while I'm listening to the podcast and yelling at the podcasters is the real name. And now I can't think of it, so somebody's yelling it out at us, right?
Oh, of course.
Anyway, yes, they haven't released Catalyst versions of the apps.
Yeah.
So, Ferrite being one of them, right? Which is the app I use to edit this podcast because it is so nice.
Yeah, I would love if there was a Mac version.
And I had heard through other podcasters, I haven't read his site, but it might say it on his site too, but that he is looking to do a Catalyst version. He was working on some other iOS 13 specific changes first, which made sense because to even attempt a Catalyst version, it would need to work on iOS 13 first also. So, yeah, I mean, he'll get to it when he gets to it.
Exactly. Speaking of programs and apps, now my next one.
Mm-hmm.
This one comes down to OmniFocus.
Oh, yes.
Because I enjoy OmniFocus. I like using it. It is a program that basically helps focus project and organization and scheduling and things like that. But what I would love to do is to have the sharing of tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, because Nate and I work both on this podcast together and at our normal job together. I would love for when we talk about a project and we divvy up, okay, who's doing what, that Nate could assign me or send to me some tasks that already have everything ready there, and all I have to do is put them into the right folders for me at that point.
Well, even if they don't have everything ready, right? Like, let's say, because I mean, even for the way that I organize my tasks for you in my OmniFocus, is I've kind of organized them basically as projects, right? I have one task for each of your projects, and if I want to split up some subpoints, I just put it in the notes because I don't feel like I want to make a project out of each thing. But for you, I could send that to you, the thing that I've written down, and then you can then make it a project in your OmniFocus and then put subtasks underneath it because of how you want to get it done, right?
Exactly. And I know that you do that for not only me, but all the other people who work in our department as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I would love to be able to do that, because then we're not talking about it and then both going back to our computers and then writing down the task individually. So things could get missed in translation or...
Yep, I think it would be good, because then you could see the notes too.
Exactly.
I mean, in some ways, it's almost like a rubric of, here's the things I'm expecting you to do. Like, here are a few fine points. I mean, and you might add to that too, but like...
Oh, yeah, no, and it would give, at least for project managers, it would give your workers a very good way to understand what is expected, what is the basic idea of what they're aiming for, what is the timeline, without having to basically distribute those things all over again. It seems redundant if there isn't the ability to share those things.
Yeah, that would be pretty... I know they're working on something. They keep talking about it in their roadmap.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's coming. I think it's supposed to come out this year. I think that's what they were talking about. But again, every time Apple makes announcements, things like that gets pushed back. So we'll have to see when it actually happens. But it was on the roadmap for 2019, and then it didn't end up happening. So maybe it will make it to being released in 2020. But I know that's one of the things they've talked about a bunch of times.
All I'm saying is it would be very nice, because basically I would like it so that you could send me the things rather than me, after our meeting, recalling what we talked about and then inputting the same things. Because I'm sure that by the time I've made it from our meeting to the office, that I've either written something down poorly or I've forgotten the wording of something and screwed something up at that point. I will inevitably come back to you and say, What did we talk about again?
Well, and it happens the other way too. Like, we're down in your office talking about the finer points of whatever it is, the project you're working on.
Yeah.
And like, oh, even this last project, right? We had forgotten to do one last thing on a calculation.
Yeah.
In the programming. And, I haven't written that down back into my project, but if you added it in, then it would be in there. I'm like, oh, yeah, we got to get that done before we check off the project completely. So, yeah.
And I will say, it would also have been very nice if I could have added things into that project every time a new addition had gotten added into the expectations from the client.
Yeah. Yep, the person in our school asking for it to be done. Yep.
Yep. And so, because it was actually very surprising to me, of every time I finished one thing, I got two more that were the next steps that they wanted done. The main media of today, we decided that we were going to watch Meet the Robinsons. I have always really loved this movie since I first saw it, and I just really enjoyed it. And I just thought it was a great movie, and was surprised when I found out that Nate had not seen it.
I think, unfortunately, most of the reason is because it came out a few years after I had moved to Japan, and I didn't have any kids. Well, I just never had an opportunity to see it here. And also, as somebody who records a lot of television on Disney Channel here, it just hasn't been on Disney Channel, which is surprising to me too. But of the Disney animation canon, I think I've only not seen like 2 now. I think I had not seen like 3, and now I've only not seen 2. One is the Merry Time from back in the 40s. But this was the most recent of them that I hadn't seen. Oh, Hunchback of Notre Dame. I don't think I've ever seen the full Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's just I haven't had a chance, and it hasn't been on Japanese cable, Japanese Disney Channel, which is just weird because they've shown almost everything else. Even Brother Bear and Home on the Range.
Ugh,
Sorry.
Really? So, as always, we are going to give a short little summary for you if you either haven't seen it or it's been so long that you just can't remember all the things that happened in the movie. So I will give you a short summary to just get you caught up. However, if you haven't seen it, as always, I do recommend that you go stop the podcast, go and watch the movie. It is a good movie, and then come back when you're done. But again, if you choose not to, I'll provide a little summary for you. So Meet the Robinsons begins with Louis. Louis is a 12-year-old boy who loves to invent and lives in an orphanage. He often uses his inventions to try to impress potential adoptive families. Unfortunately, his inventions don't always work the best the first time, and it does sometimes lead to some unintended consequences. Well, when he is rejected by yet another family, he decides that instead of trying to impress these families, he's going to try to search for his biological mother through the use of a memory scanner. He spends the next few days trying to create this memory scanner, which unfortunately keeps his roommate up and causes a lot of trouble for his school. When he finishes his invention, he does go to a science fair to display this, and it seems like it's going to work. That is, until it was sabotaged by a man in a bowler hat. Well, technically, by the bowler hat itself. When he goes to run the experiment, instead of working as it should, it causes the entire science fair to basically fall apart. This leads him to despair, and in so, Louis decides to give up. It's at that time he is approached by Wilbur. Wilbur claims that he is from the future, and he also is trying to get him to go back to the science fair and fix the machine so that the timeline can be fixed. Louis does not believe Wilbur. He doesn't believe he's from the future, and he doesn't believe anything he says, and refuses to do anything until Wilbur proves that he is indeed from the future. So, Wilbur throws him into the time machine, and they go flying into the future. And in seeing that time travel is real, Louis does what he always wanted to do. He wants to go back and meet his mother. So he ends up arguing with Wilbur, and in their argument, instead of actually flying back to the past and meeting his mother, they end up accidentally crashing the time machine. Once this happens, they decide that the only way that they can continue to go about this is Louis has to fix the time machine, because there are only two time machines, and they were both made by Wilbur's father. But his father is away, so he decides that the only way it can be fixed, and hopefully Wilbur avoiding getting in trouble, is that he gets Louis to fix it for him. They then go to the Robinsons' home, where Wilbur tries to hide Louis in the garage as he repairs the time machine. Louis, unfortunately, gets sucked up into a tube and ends up meeting the entire Robinson family. All the while, the man in the bowler hat tried to pass off the machine as his own, failed to do so, and then ends up breaking the machine, and then comes to the future to meet and find Louis so that he can get the machine fixed. He then goes about various ways of trying to get Louis and capture him and get him to fix the machine, which leads to some rather zany antics, many of which involve a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a tiny bowler cap. And eventually, the Robinsons invite Louis to move in with them and become part of their family. Wilbur, at that point, reveals that Louis is from the past, and the family start to worry and take back their invitation to join the family. At that time, Louis runs away with the bowler hat man, and they go and fix the machine. It is at that time it is revealed that Doris, the bowler hat, has been playing the man the entire time, who turns out to be Louis's old roommate, who has gone down a path of depression and failure because he blamed Lewis for keeping him from catching the game-winning hit in a Little League game. When he figures out what Doris is going to do, he, along with the family, end up working together, and then Lewis goes back in time to fix everything and fix the timeline and put everything back on course. Once everything is calmed down, and he decides to go back to his original time and back to the science fair, Wilbur does promise to take Lewis to his mother. Lewis goes to the porch where his mother originally dropped him off at the orphanage and decides, no, he does not actually want to meet her because, indeed, he already has another family. And that family is Wilbur's because Lewis is Wilbur's father from the future. First of all, I want you to tell me what you thought of the movie because, like I said, I have always really loved this movie, but maybe it's just because of my nostalgia.
I think I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll be my favorite Disney movie, but I think I did like it.
Yeah, and I think that's about the place that it stays.
I did end up showing this to my kids, too, as I was watching it. So they watched it last night, and they enjoyed it, too.
Mm.
Although my youngest got a little bit afraid of the fire ants in the movie. She's like, do fire ants really bite? Like, yeah. It's funny that she picked up on that, but...
that's in like 30 seconds.
And it's not the big bad either, right? She's afraid of that, but that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think I do like it. I think one of the things that was getting me down a little bit about it was thinking through the time travel problems.
Oh, yeah.
There are lots of them. And at first I was thinking, oh, this is pretty good. And then I was thinking, wait a minute, he destroys the hat. Therefore, there would be no reason to time travel in the first place. Okay, there's a lot of time travel problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was trying to work through all that logic. That was getting me a little bit depressed. So once I realized there's a lot of problems, and then I just let them all go, okay, then it's fine.
That is the way that I approach this movie. Because, I mean, again, this is the same movie where there is a wife who is a puppet.
Yes, right.
Who has two grown children.
Yeah, I had a little problem with that part too. Okay, my daughters asked about that, and I was like, I was able to blow off the question, but in my head I'm thinking, wait a minute, was the wife the puppet, or did he have a wife and she died and he made a puppet, which is also kind of disturbing?
Yeah.
That was the most disturbing character. That one right there, that was one of the ones I had the biggest problem with.
I'm just saying, like, that's why when it comes to timelines in this movie, I tend to just let them have a little bit of a free rein because it's not the weirdest thing in this movie.
Yeah. And I do think they do fairly well by figuring everyone's relationship. I think if I sat down and paid more close attention, I think I would be able to understand the whole family tree, but I decided to give up after a little while.
It's...
So, does somebody have it on the website?
So, the basic idea is the pizza delivery guy and the guy who launches himself out of the cannon.
Yeah, that's the wife's siblings.
The wife's brothers. And then the other group of the family is Bud, the grandpa.
Mm-hmm. The guy with the puppet is Bud's brother, right?
Yep.
And then he's got two red-headed children.
Yeah. So Bud, his brother, is the guy with the puppet and also the guy in the chair.
Oh, and also the guy in the chair. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the guy in the chair is married to the girl with the train.
Wait a minute, really?
Yep.
Okay. I guess that could work, yeah.
So it is basically the guy in the chair and the girl in the train are married, and then there's the guy with the puppet who has two grown kids.
Yep.
And that's one half of the family, and then the other half are Franny's siblings. The wife's siblings.
Okay. But, so the girl with the train is not blood related then. Oh, it's only related through marriage.
Only related through marriage.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought the girl with the train was also one of Franny's siblings. Okay, that makes sense now.
No, the guy with the cannon was one of Franny's siblings.
Right.
Not related in any way to the girl with the train, except through marriage.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so it all works
And then the robot.
And then the robot.
And everybody else who shows up, they're like, yeah, we don't know how they're related.
So at this point, too, right, he says, and what does your father look like? Tom Selleck? Which is hilarious, because Tom Selleck is doing the voice later on.
Yep.
And I just thought, oh, they just stuck his face there. That was good too. Yeah. Oh, I did want to say too, this is the first film Disney Animation has made since the purchase of Pixar. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So this is the first time that John Lasseter was the director of the Disney Animation Studios when they made the film. And apparently he had seen an early version of this, from what I've read on the internet. He had seen an early version of this and had said, the big bad is not scary enough. And that's an interesting thing, because that means that maybe, however the big bad was worked out, was not as scary as the hat is. The hat is definitely scary in some parts, and actually I thought that was the problem my youngest daughter was going to have a problem with. But no, she was afraid of the fire ants.
Those fire ants are scary.
Yeah, she was very worried that they were going to bite him. But not worried about the future with the hat domination. So,
well, maybe the hat makes everybody look good.
Well, and the fact that maybe it's closer to home, right? The other one is a comic, that would never happen where the ants are closer. So, yeah, we don't have fire ants around us, so I need to reassure her that there are no fire ants around us.
I just remember I grew up in a lot of different places in the Midwest, and I remember one time falling into a full fire ant hill.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was awful.
I can imagine. How long did it take you to heal? Maybe I can tell her that.
I don't remember because I was young. I was wearing like pants, and they basically just got on my legs.
I did want to say one thing about the animation.
Yeah?
I did find it pretty neat. Some spots showed its age maybe a little bit, but nothing that I can pinpoint, just a feeling. Especially because now that we have newer movies, so it's a little bit unfair.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was amazed about was the reflections in the chrome of the ship they were flying around. I was like, wow, you can see clear reflections of what's going on in the chrome of the ship. So I was impressed with that, which I'm sure took a lot of processing power for them to do back then. But I was impressed. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I would say, especially for coming out in 2007, I felt like this was a good showing.
Yeah, I'd seen Bolt a few times, the movie that comes out directly after this one, because that's shown on cable, and my kids watch that every once in a while. And that has, I think, better animation, but again, they were more practiced, so they were able to do it better. But it didn't have like chrome things like this did. So, it was also a different scale, so I guess. But I thought the animation was very nice.
Yeah. One of the things that I do like is some of the things they do with the setting, though. Like Todayland.
Yes, Todayland was great. What a good joke.
Because it is... At the core of this movie, there is a very good theme that we'll get onto later. It has a lot of not-so-subtle nods to Disney.
Yeah, I did like that one. That one stood out very nicely.
Yeah. Some of the things that they did were very interesting. Although I will say that some of the choices that they made for how the world works in the future made me think, how about all the employment that this is eliminating? Like... the instant building. What happens to all construction workers after there's an instant building?
Well, and also I was wondering, like they have instant building, that means just this inflatable building. How would that stand against things? But, yeah, elements and things.
Well, maybe the instant building inflates, and after it's been inflated, it then solidifies into a harder, outer shell.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And if you could do that with all the floors, too, that would be pretty slick.
Yeah. This is Todayland.
I'm realizing now that one of the things that bothered me about the animation a little bit was the hair. The hair didn't seem quite fluid enough. It seemed a little bit too stiff. But The Incredibles had hair down, right? But that was 3 years earlier. But, of course, that was Pixar, not Disney.
I think also the fact was, because this was probably very stylized and based on the children's book, I assume.
Yeah.
I think that...
Yeah, they weren't going for fluid hair. That's not what they were trying for. Yeah, I think that's probably true.
They went very cartoonish, and that's fine. That was what they were going for.
Yeah, and I think it worked.
I think it worked. Let's move to characters.
I think the mom. I think she was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I like how giving she was. And I love that they did tie in her whole thing of frogs from the past to the future. I think that worked pretty fun, too.
Yeah. I do like the fact that, because this is a very wide ensemble cast.
Yeah.
And given that how much they do in what little time there was to be able to potentially show each person, I think they showed each one pretty well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think one of the people that has the least depth, I think, that I'm a little bit bummed about, I think, is Wilbur. In some ways, I think Wilbur has the least amount of depth. Everyone has their personalities built out pretty quickly. I mean, the pizza delivery guy, the girl with the train, the rocket guy, they all have fairly deep personality. They show exactly what they love. They're wearing their stuff on their sleeve. And I think Wilbur is, in some ways, he is the shallowest of them all, unfortunately.
The one who doesn't seem to have any interests?
Yeah. He doesn't have any interests, and his character is based around lies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He is 13, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, conversely, Lewis has interests.
And he's 12.
In some ways, I just wish there was a little bit more to Wilbur. Not much more. It doesn't have to be too much more.
But there was some interest, something that made him stand out from being basically the plot mover.
Yes. I mean, even if it was something that connected him to his father of the time, right? Mm-hmm. I wish I didn't do this because I wanted to do something more with my father or something like that. Like, if it just connected him closer to his father or just gave him something more, I think it would have been a little bit better. But because I feel like Wilbur got the short end of the stick, where everyone got lots of development and Wilbur has nothing.
To point it back towards the children's book when did that children's book come out, I wonder?
That's a good question. William Joyce, who wrote that book, I have another one of his books, Dinosaur Bob. I've read that. I think I had that when I was growing up. Dinosaur Bob, which is actually, I read on the internet, which is why the teams are called the Dinos. Mm-hmm. Goob's baseball team and even the high school's team is the Dinos, which is interesting. Dinosaur Bob was one of the books that I really liked because I was like, wow, this is a really well illustrated book. Like Dinosaur Bob, Jumanji, a David Macaulay book. Like, these are all well illustrated children's books. And for a while I had scanned them and put them as desktop backgrounds on my computers because they were just really cool pictures, right? Like real pieces of art in a book.
Yeah. So I'm looking at A Day with Wilbur Robinson. I mean, pretty much you look at it and a lot of the characters were taken from that book. I mean, there were a lot who were cut out or merged with other characters.
Yeah, I noticed that too, yeah.
But those characters had a personality from that book. But, I mean, you look at that book, and, I mean, Wilbur was basically the guide.
Yep, yes, he was the guide of the book. He didn't have any depth in the book either.
Yeah, so I think, again, if we're drawing the parallel to the book, then it makes sense.
Yeah, but it would have been nice, I mean, since the book made the change of the time travel.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if they had said, well, okay, Wilbur's going to have more of a tie to the father, right? I mean, that...
Yeah, because, I mean, they changed the father from the book.
It's a minor quibble. I mean...
Yeah. No, I think it has validity. Because it's a movie where every character is very quirky, very unique, except for Wilbur. And I think that's the thing is... It's not like they were going for, like, realistic characters. They were quirky, they were unique, but they had something they were passionate about. No, I think you're right. I think also, given what you could tell from just the little bits of time, you could really get a feel for at least their personalities and how much they at least genuinely cared about each other.
Yeah, especially through the dinosaur scene. I think that was great. Let's talk about Goob a little bit, huh?
Oh, yeah, Goob.
I think he was played well at the beginning as the kid. And then I loved that we always assumed that the man in the bowler hat was doing the evil.
Yeah.
Up until pretty much the boardroom scene. And then they switched that on you real quick. Like, oh no, he's not the evil one. So I thought that was played pretty well. I enjoyed that twist. Because at the moment you're like, oh man, another guy who is a caricature of a bad guy. And then they flip that pretty quickly and say, no, he's just the hapless assistant, basically. The hat's the bad guy.
Yeah. When he's like, prepare to be... Ah, I got it! I do love what he does as a evil guy who is like being this quintessential evil guy, but then does things like pulls out the unicorn binder.
Because it's real cute. Oh, and I do love, I could turn him into a duck. Oh, I don't need ducks.
And I don't know how to do that.
So why did he even come up with the idea? Yep.
It is Yes. Michael Yagubian.
Mm-hmm. And I do like that, again, with the timeline, but I do like the fact that, he goes back and wakes Goob up at the end. I think that's great. Like, oh, yes. Oh, there was something else. It's not just all about the science fair. No. I'm going to wake Goob up so he can catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then, things are going to be okay for Goob.
Hey.
But then, of course, nothing would have happened in the future, so then all of that would have disappeared. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Timey-wimey. Maybe they're going with the multiverse.
Maybe.
It's not a timeline, it's a multiverse. Which then screws everything up anyway. I just generally like him because he seems evil, but is really the bumbling idiot. I mean, one of the best lines has got to still be, I don't know if this plan was thought through. Master?
Yep. Well, because it's said twice, too.
Exactly.
After he thought through it again, it's still said again.
I have a big head and very little arms.
Yeah, I actually don't have too much to say about Lewis. I think he's played pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
I think his reactions are genuine and his motivations seem spot on.
Yeah, I felt like he was done very well. If I had to say one thing that bothers me about this movie, mm-hmm. It's that Bud never reacts to Lewis.
But oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because Bud and Lucille would have been Lewis's adopted parents.
Right. So they would have been able to recognize him even with a hat.
Yeah, you would think.
Or at least they would have a line something like, well, you remind me of someone, or something like that.
Your face looks familiar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that has bothered me, is because, I mean, you can tell that they have a huge attachment to him, especially at the end when they're sending him back to the past.
Mm-hmm.
But you would have thought that they would have had some sort of realization or connection to him before even that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's how much can you do when you have, 12 people you have to introduce in, 10 minutes.
It was funny to watch my youngest daughter realize at the end of the movie that all the people in the past were going to be people that he met in the future. It was funny to, oh, that's dad. Oh, that's the wife. It was funny to see her eyes widen up. Oh, I recognize her. So that was kind of fun. We've said some of them already, but let's get to the things why this movie really ticks.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that makes this really fun is the fact that it is fast-paced and the amount of one-liners they have. They just crank them out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it is well-tuned for yours and my humor. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it works for us.
And that probably is why this movie is one of those movies that I always just love, because it is one of those humors that just, it hits right at home for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see people would think they're probably dad jokes or something like that. Some of them maybe are, but a lot of them are pretty good. Even though I hadn't seen this movie, I had seen the joke with the dog with the glasses, and I think because it's in the trailer, so I must have seen the trailer.
Oh yeah.
Why do your dog wear glasses? Because insurance won't pay for contacts, right? So yeah, I think I've seen some of them before, but they're pretty good and they're pretty fast, and they just crank them out. At one point, I think it's when he was ripping up the papers just before things started speeding up. I was thinking, this movie is slowing down a little bit, but then right after that it picks up again. So I was thinking, oh, this is slowing down. Oh, and then boom, you just keep moving. So
yeah, it's slowing down, and then you meet the family, and it starts going at a breakneck pace.
So I think the pace, I liked it.
Yeah.
So that I think has it going for it.
And when he gets quizzed by Wilbur about the family.
Yeah. They go over it all again, even faster.
Yeah. He meets all the family, and then he has to answer the questions about the family faster, and also revealing a few things that didn't actually get revealed very clearly in the first place.
Yes, clarifying some things, yes. Mm-hmm. So, yep, I thought that was pretty fun.
And that is, of course, where he looks like Tom Selleck.
Yes. He puts in Tom's. I don't know what your dad looks like. He looks like Tom Selleck. Which I don't agree with at all, but still, that's pretty fun.
I also think that, how does Wilbur know what Tom Selleck looks like?
Yes, actually, I was going to make that comment too. Wait a minute. This is supposed to be 2035. Tom Selleck, he was old when I was watching him growing up. So when I was homesick, I would watch Magnum P.I. once or twice. It probably wasn't the greatest show, but I watched it once or twice. And yeah, that was old for me growing up. So, and I'm sure if I was to rewatch the Tom Selleck shows now, they would not hold up, right?
Probably not. And things like, and is she cranky? Yes. When he's doing the hand motion like it's a puppet.
Oh, yeah. Cranky, yes.
Or, fire ants bite, only my enemies.
Yeah. Right, so everybody then. Okay. They do. They keep coming.
Yeah, they do. That is it. The humor in this movie is excellent. It is just very well done. I feel like it's because it doesn't take itself too seriously. It knows what it is and is willing to crack jokes.
In some ways, I think, in terms of the fast-paced one-liners, it's a little bit better than Mystery Men, which of course has lots of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think this one has more at a more breakneck pace. And Mystery Men was trying to do something different.
Yeah.
Be the superhero movie, where this one is not doing that. So yeah, I think this one had more ability to do it.
And because it was a digital movie, because it was animated, it could do certain things that you can't necessarily do in a movie like Mystery Men.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, with this, you got to have the scene where you had two frogs pick up a tiny bowler hat and put it in the trunk of a car.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just get the line, "Little Doris sleeps with the fishes now."
Yeah. Yep. Actually, I had read that they had considered doing this live action. I'm very glad they decided to do this as an animated movie.
Oh, yeah, me too. I can't imagine this as live action.
Yeah, the frogs wouldn't have been as good.
Especially not in 2007.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the themes. I do think there are many good themes.
There are many good themes.
Let's start with one of the minor ones first, though.
All right.
I think the fact that failures are not bad, I think is a great minor theme. And I wish that was even played a little bit more majorly.
I felt like it was played pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was played well. Well, because the other themes are hammered in.
Yeah, true.
I just thought this one would be nice played a little bit stronger.
That being said, I felt like the other ones being hammered in actually assist this one because the idea of the other themes can only be achieved by understanding that failure is not a problem.
That's true. Yes, the other ones are hanging on this fact, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is because everything else is based upon this fact.
Mm-hmm.
That failure is not a problem, because some of the lines that they use is, "You learn very well from failure. Success, not so much."
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great line, actually.
It does hammer home that, like, yeah, people fail in life, but it's learning from it and growing from it that is the thing that makes it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We keep bringing up movies and books that have really amazing themes, and I think that that is one of those things that is prevalent in all the movies and things that we pick. And I think this is one that is just a theme that, yeah, I loved it, and I thought, you're right, it would have been better if it was done a little bit more, but I think it's because everything else is hinged upon this that I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the main theme, again, keep moving forward, is hammered, even with a wonderful fireworks display right in the middle of the movie.
And banners.
Yeah, very fun. But yeah, that's a great theme, keep moving forward.
Yeah, it is keep moving forward, don't get stuck in your past, but also, again, that idea of failure will happen, but just keep trucking through.
Right. I mean, and it's the same thing with, like you were saying earlier, with the early themes, right? It's failure does not mean you failed completely. It just means you failed in one step. Failing one step is not a problem.
Especially if you're learning from that failure.
Right, exactly.
Because if you're learning from that failure, it's not really a failure.
You've decided one more material doesn't fit in a light bulb, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where you realize that if we are learning from failure, I don't know if we can even define it technically as a failing.
Mm-hmm.
Because those things define us and make us who we are, especially the ones that we take and grow from.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least where I land on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of the reason why I actually decided that we had been putting off the yearly themes talk so long, and I actually said, no, we need to talk about it this time, simply because, especially with how I've been talking about, I want my theme this year to be focused on basically movement and progress and all of these things about making steps towards my goals and not allowing myself to kind of just float through things. Especially when we were talking about this movie, especially with this theme, that's why I wanted to bring that back up this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's perfect. Fits right in. Yeah, this theme definitely was placed well in this movie and pushed well in this movie. Well, yes, it was definitely hammered home, but it wasn't so much so that it was annoying.
No.
Yeah, I thought it was very good.
I thought it wasn't annoying because that's what the whole story was about.
Right. It's Lewis's journey of learning that he needs to keep moving forward.
It was his character arc, this thing that he needed to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have no problem with it, simply because it is, honestly, one of those things that it was tied to, yes, it was their theme, yes, it was hammered home, but it was also his character arc. This is what he needed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. If it was just the slogan on the side of Robinson Industries, it would not have been as fun. But because it was not only the slogan on the side of Robinson Industries, but also the character arc, it was deeply embedded and made the movie better.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Like I said, I really like this movie. Is it my number one favorite Disney movie of all time? No. But do I really like it? Do I love this movie? Yeah. So that's kind of where I land on it.
Yep, I think I'm landing somewhere similarly too. Yeah, and I think it was kind of interesting because I think in some ways, after the movie finished, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about some of the time travel stuff, my opinion of it dropped. But then in writing my notes to talk about today, my opinion of it raised again. Because it's like, okay, fine, I'm going to forget about the time travel problems. And I'm going to focus on all the other fun stuff. And all the other fun stuff is wonderful. So
yeah. Well, I mean, if I hated every movie that had bad time travel, I would never like any time travel movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Except for the one with the whales. You don't like Star Trek 4?
No, but they have bad timey-wimey things. I will say it.
No, that movie's perfect. What are you talking about?
Would now be the time for a colorful metaphor?
Oh, here, I have a post-show thing for you. I wanted to send this to you earlier. I forgot. Have you seen Apple's Japan anime-themed Behind the Mac video? You should watch this. I'll put it in the show notes, too, so other people can watch it, too. But
I've seen this somewhere, but I don't remember where I saw it.
I think I might have seen it as a YouTube ad.
Yes, it was a YouTube ad. That's where I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the funny thing is, I hate to admit how many of these I can recognize what shows they're from.
Yeah, I know it has your name in it.
Yep, the last one is your name.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one in the middle too, but yeah, and it also says it has Weathering with You, so I don't recognize those ones. But I'm assuming you recognize those in there.
Yep, I do. Honestly, it is kind of amazing how many different changes to the Apple logo they can make to make it so they don't have to pay.
Not quite Apple.
Like this one has 2 bites out of it.
I liked that one. That was a good one. I don't recognize that one though, the one with 2 bites. What movie is that?
That's actually a TV show.
Oh, okay.
That one is New Game, if I remember right. It's about basically a video game design studio. I'm trying to remember all of these because I can probably list off at least 4 of them if I can.
If you just scroll down a little further on the Mac Rumors page, it does tell you some of them. Weathering with You, The Wonderland, Gridman, Your Name, Yamano Susume.
Yeah.
And more. So.
And more. They don't go ahead and list the rest of them. Come on, guys.
Maybe they don't know all of them either. Okay, the very first one. Is that Weathering with You?
The very first one?
The guy with the towel on his shoulders.
I don't think so. The one that I can tell is Weathering with You is 4 seconds in.
4 seconds in?
Yep.
The guy with the red shirt?
Yep.
Okay. It's pretty amazing that they could pull all this together for this ad.
Well, yeah, they would have had to get permission from all the studios.
Yeah. And the fact that there was this many fake Macs in Japanese stuff.
Oh, come on, man. You should see how many times, every time they have a fake Starbucks, seeing how many different ways they can change Starbucks to deal with avoiding copyright. There's that, and how many times they have like something that's clearly McDonald's but isn't McDonald's.
Well, and I guess Macs are so popular in Japan that I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that they're making it into movies, right? They're using computers in movies.
Yeah. Plus, maybe if we put Macs in our movie, Mac will give us the sweet, sweet advertising money.
That's true. But I don't know. We heard it was in the news recently that Macs can't be used by the enemy. But of course, at the end of this Your Name scene here, the one that they're showing, they're doing the crazy thing by... I mean, they're not the enemy, but...
No.
They're doing the crazy thing by breaking into the school's radio system and the town's emergency broadcast system.
Yeah, given that, I mean, that technically what they are doing is an act of terrorism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, would you consider that an act of the enemy?
I have so many iOS devices in my house right now. It's unbelievable. With the 3 iPads my daughter's brought home. And so my wife has her old iPad, her new iPad. My daughters have 3 iPads and their 3 phones. So many iOS devices I'm plugging in at night right now. It's unbelievable.
So what you're saying is you want to donate some of those iPads to me?
Well, they belong to the school, a lot of them, but... so many devices.
Because, I'm just slumming it here with 2 iPhones and a Mac Pro.
That's because the neck of the bottle, the neck of this one's, I didn't take a picture. Oh, I gotta take a picture. Oh, I have another bottle upstairs. Right, never mind, we're okay. I gotta take it before he drinks it. Okay, all right, I can do that.
All right, so Meet the Robinsons came out in 2007, which means that it came out, I was still in high school. Wow, am I doing that math right?
You can't be still in high school in 2007.
No, sorry.
College, maybe.
I was in college. I was in my bachelor's degree. Sorry. 2006 is when I graduated high school. So.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You're that young. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I am 32. I am 32. So 2006 I graduated high school.
I'm only 30. Wait a minute. No, I'm just kidding.
Uh-huh. All right, Pinocchio.
I want to be a real boy. Sorry.
Now I have to be careful not to say Louise.
And now it's Lewis.
Now it's Lewis.
It's not Lewis Carroll, but this time it's Lewis.
Yes. So Meet the Robinsons begins with Lewis. He needs to catch the game-winning pitch. In my determination to not say pitch, I said pitch.